Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining New Jersey Wedding Podcast. We are your hosts, Andrea Pertel and Celia Milton, and we are both professional wedding officiants here in the great state of New Jersey. And Celia, I like today's guest. I think this is very, very important
Absolutely.
information today that
Yep.
all brides and grooms need to hear about.
Everybody needs to have this.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're delighted to have Alyson. Oh, I'm gonna stutter on Locacciato. Is that right? Close?
Close,
Okay,
very close.
good. And that I have no excuse because I'm Italian too. She's an insurance broker from Front Row Insurance Brokers in California, but they work with the entire country. Their mission is to help brides and grooms go from that state of being overwhelmed and confused and freaking out to relaxed and confident. And they do this by offering liability insurance that covers so many of the potential wedding situations. You're laying in bed in the middle of the night and you're like, what if this happens? Well, you don't have to do that anymore because Alyson is going to help you. Alyson, welcome to the broadcast. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah. Tell us how you work with couples and it sounds like it's not as exciting as tasting cake, but we say that about ourselves too. It's like, oh, wow. But it's so vital because there are so many things that can happen from that point of I do to that point of you're married. Tell us how you can help them feel more relaxed.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Front Row Insurance Brokers has created a online event liability platform. So you go in, you give us it's about 9 questions. It takes less than a minute. And we
Excellent.
just ask basic information, name, how many guests, if you're serving alcohol, and then we're able to get you a quote and you're able to bind immediately.
Oh, yeah, I see on your website, and I'll tell the listeners that we will include a link to their website on our social media pages, New Jersey Wedding Podcast, and you just click on the button and it says get your online quote now. So you can go from the quote to purchasing it right then and there, right online, correct?
Yes, super easy. And then as soon as you purchase coverage, you get an automated email with your policy documentation immediately. So no waiting, the whole process from finding the website to receiving everything in your inbox is less than 5 minutes.
Okay.
That's fantastic. I have to admit, when I went to your website, it's way more interesting than I expected, to tell you the
For
truth.
sure.
It really is. I just, I think that, everybody goes into weddings with this, this hope and this notion that they vetted all their venues and their pros and everything is going to work out just fine. And as we all know, bad things can happen to perfectly good vendors. And, how does your coverage work? Can they cover specific things?
Yes. So the policy that we offer is general liability. And general liability has different kind of sub coverages underneath the general liability. So general liability is third party bodily injury or property damage. So some examples of that type of covered loss would be for bodily injury is, say, for example, you have a elderly family member that trips and falls and goes to the hospital. This policy would cover any cost to defend you if that family member were to sue you. So sometimes, a lot of the time, we don't want to necessarily think about our family members pursuing a lawsuit against us. But if somebody receives a large medical bill, a lot of the time they don't have the option to
Hmm.
pay it. So they will look in every way possible. So a lot of the time they'll start a suit and it'll name the venue and it'll also name the person holding the event,
Right.
which would be you, the bride and groom.
Right.
So that's one covered loss. And then the other situation would be property damage. So damage to rented premises. So that could be anything from water damage. We actually just had a similar claim recently where there was a wedding and they had one of those galvanized buckets with drinks. And unfortunately, there was a hole in the bottom and it damaged the venue's wooden floors. So that's another example of property damage that this policy can also act on.
Yeah.
And then it's also customized to your particular your wedding. So if whether you're serving alcohol, we offer liquor liability as well as host liquor liability, which you can always include on as well.
This is for, you know, my couples. I'm located by the Jersey Shore, just, you know, minutes from the beach. And so I have a lot of couples who have beach weddings, and many of the beaches here, even if they're having their wedding at, you know, the venue right off the beach, to have it on the beach, the town will require that they get $1 million liability insurance. That's what Asbury Park was last time I checked with them. If you're going to have it on the beach, you have to have $1 million liability. Long Branch, a lot of Monmouth County beaches require you to have that liability insurance. And when you tell the couple, well, you know, yeah, you're going to have to get the permit and they will require insurance, and they hear $1 million and they go, what? You know, it's not going to cost you $1 million. And you can get a rider on your homeowner's insurance, but nobody wants to touch their homeowner's insurance. So they just get the event insurance, and that's where you would call Front Row Insurance and get your insurance. And then, like she said, you get your certificate right there, right then and there, and you hand it into the town to prove it. You have your insurance so you can have your beach wedding. It also, it's popular to rent one of the houses along the beach to host your wedding. So now you have your private beachfront, you have your wedding there, and you know, people come inside and stuff. And I know those Airbnbs are going to require an insurance. So those are the type of things, right, Alyson, that you guys provide.
Absolutely. So not only is it the peace of mind of knowing that you're protecting, you know, your new couple, you're starting lives together. You don't want to necessarily going into a married couple having to face a huge financial burden of a potential lawsuit. So you can get that out of your head. But also a lot of venues, and exactly as you were saying, Andrea, that locations require it.
Yes.
Venues require it, especially if you're going to be pulling permits like a beach wedding, for example. It's not necessarily something that you have a choice. If you're going to be purchased, if you want to be able to get married in your dream location on a beach, you need to purchase the insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we do have the most competitive rates for the coverage limits that are typical, which is the $1 million per occurrence or per loss. We do have the most competitive rates out on the market that I've been able to see, and we offer instant policy documentation as well.
You know, Alyson, I wanted to ask you, now, I don't know how this works at all, of course, but can they cover things like if their wedding dress salon closes and they can't have a dress, if their venue closes and they can't have their wedding there, what kind of things can they choose to cover?
So that actually reminds me of what happened to myself. I
Oh,
am
no.
COVID bride. That actually happened to me. The wedding dress, a place that I had my place stored at actually closed. But I was a COVID bride. I was planning to get married the beginning of the year in 2020, and that's what made this project made me so passionate about getting coverage for couples. At this moment, it's very due to COVID because so many insurance companies sustained so many different types of losses due to COVID. there's not necessarily a COVID coverage or a competitive cancellation policy in place that's available right now, but it is something we're actively pursuing. So say, for example, like for me, a vendor closed down. That is not a coverage that we're able to offer at this time, but that is something that we're actively looking to include in our policy form in the future.
Oh, okay.
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 That's good to know. I think that, things like lost ring. Do you insure wedding rings and engagement rings?
So we actually don't, just because it's so much less expensive to add it on to your renters or your homeowners in policy.
That's a good point. I like it.
Yeah, we typically recommend it's typically no deductible, it's very low. And to be able to add that coverage onto the general liability portion of what we offer, it wouldn't be competitive, and we wouldn't be able to
Mhm.
offer significant deductible that would be competitive to that of renters or homeowners. But that's also something that we're definitely looking forward to adding on in the future. This program is relatively new. It's just celebrated its second birthday. So as we move forward, we're definitely looking into expanding and adding on coverages, but at this time, it's currently general liability.
And I would think that most couples don't have to worry about they're only concerned about their guests and the property, right? So if they're renting out the property and their guests, you don't have to worry about the vendors, correct? I think that if you're hiring a photographer, videographer, that they should carry their own insurance, right? So they can't say my camera or you know, my DJ equipment got ruined. They should have their own insurance. Or do you cover that too?
So that's a really good point, Andrea. So typically, we do not offer coverage for vendors. During the process when you vet your vendors, and it specifically notes this on the website when you're going through, but the vendors should be insured, preferably licensed, bonded, insured. There's all different types of wonderful vendors out there, but you want to make sure when you're looking for vendors that they have a business that's financially stable, not only just for the insurance portion, but just more peace of mind. So you would lessen the likelihood of not only somebody, as far as reliability, but you would want to make sure that if your florist, for example, if they get injured while setting up decorations, they should have their own insurance coverage, so that liability is not presented onto you.
Right, right. I think the only vendor that isn't required to have insurance is the officiant.
Right.
Yes,
Because
it's true.
we don't come in with thousands of dollars of equipment. We come in with our book, and but DJs come in with, thousands of dollars of equipment, and videographers do too. And therefore, yeah, if something happens to their equipment, they can't hold you responsible for it. They should have their own insurance. So front row insurance is going to cover all the other stuff
Yes, absolutely.
that's usually required by the property. you know even with the when you hire, we have a lot of venues out here that you hire the space, the rustic barn and
Right.
all of that. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, absolutely. We've been seeing that a lot more. I'm based out of the Los Angeles area, and similar to Andrew, what you were saying about like the local beaches in New Jersey, it's the same thing in California. You're required to have minimum liability limits of $1 million just to step on the beach,
Yeah.
to be able to host your event, your wedding. And we've been seeing it a lot more, all different types of wedding venues, because a lot of, before it wasn't necessarily so much required, but wedding venues also were hit very hard during COVID of just not being able to operate. And their insurance premiums have gone up as well as another expense. So we're seeing a lot more venues having the brides and grooms be able to offer coverage to subsidize that as well.
Yeah, yeah. I want to tell our listeners that the name of your website is frontrowinsurance.com. Again, I'll put a link there. And if you go to the weddings, you can get a quote in 2 minutes. They make it so easy to go in there, put your information in there, get your quote, purchase the insurance, and get your, the form, the document you need to prove that you have your insurance. And yeah, and also there's a list of all the states that you cover. It looks like you cover a lot of them. Of course, we're New Jersey based, so, and New Jersey, even though we can be very strict, our beaches don't allow alcohol on them. Unless it's a private beach, you've rented the house on the private beach. But even with that, even with their strict rules, they don't allow any of what was a big thing for a while, Celia? They wanted to do those floating candles.
Oh, the lanterns, the fire lanterns, yes.
It's like, no, that's not allowed.
Yeah, we can't do that.
Land on somebody's house and burn it or something.
Oh,
We're
God.
pretty strict, but they do require the insurance. It's a Jersey thing.
Well, but I think it's really good to go into the process. As I said, it's not the most glamorous aspect of this, but there are things that a lot of people really, we do a lot of people who are getting married in an Airbnb or in the middle of a field somewhere or on the beach. And, you can't just like walk out there and do it.
Right.
And, it's not it's not like fun, but it's something that's going to make you feel, it's like putting on nice, clean, warm socks. You're like really covered for everything and you don't have to worry about it.
Right. And it's not overwhelming. It's just one little extra.
No, it's not at all.
I got to say, I never thought of this before too. When you are having and serving your own alcohol,
Oh, yeah.
unless you're using a company, maybe they come with insurance, but maybe you should have your own insurance. Nobody wants to be held responsible. How can you? It's your day. I can't keep track of who's over drinking and what's going to happen to them or they do. Right? I would totally. If I wasn't having it at a venue that had that covered, that is something, just peace of mind,
Absolutely.
the unexpected. That's what
Well,
it's all about.
As well, that's probably the biggest concern when I speak to couples that have questions about our policy is liquor coverage. So just to confirm, there's two different types of liquor coverage. There's host liquor liability and there's liquor liability.
Okay.
Liquor liability is, for example, when it's BYOB, for example, or there's just buckets out with wine and beer. So that's full liquor liability. So you're assuming the risk to make sure that people aren't overserved.
Mm-hmm.
Liquor liability is actually included in our base policy, which is in addition to a venue or a vendor serving the alcohol. Without that coverage, a lot of the time, if somebody were to overserve and get into an accident and they were to sue the venue, they would sue everybody. That could be you because you were holding the event. So that coverage is actually automatically included in our base policy, the host liquor liability.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Now I have one last question. We're almost out of time, but let me ask you, and this is offbeat. You guys are in California, right? Alyson, you're in California?
I am, yes.
And we're in Jersey, and California, way before Jersey, cannabis is legal. Cannabis is legal here. I know in California, there's a little bit of a rise on having a cannabis bar at weddings. We don't do that here in Jersey yet because you can't have both. You can't do that here. But do you guys cover that?
I would have to review the policy and get back to you in complete transparency. I
Yeah.
know that the host liquor liability is only in regards to liquor, so
Liquor,
I would
yeah.
have to review further on cannabis use.
Yeah, 'cause
Um,
they have
but-
like the weed bars at weddings there, and I haven't seen that start here, or if they even.
No, me neither. Nope. Nope.
Cannabis is a little bit difficult to ensure because
Yeah.
the policies are considered federal. So to be able to have a policy that's state specific, that has that state specific wording is a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
Insurance takes a while, it takes a long time to include the blanket policy verbiage, especially because the base policy has to satisfy so many different states.
Right.
It's a little bit difficult and hairy. It doesn't exclusively cover it. So but I would have to review. If you do have any questions though, listeners, if you have any questions about your specific event, you can always give me a call or reach out on our website and I would be more than happy to assist you.
Right. I just thought that was funny because it's just something new here and on the rise.
Yeah, it's something else. Yeah, something
Yeah.
else to think about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I know that there was a service of boats yachts that would go out here, and they included that in their parties. But anyhow, and then if anybody has a claim, there is a tab on Front Row. I guess it's just like doing a claim through your car insurance type thing. You call the claim number, and there's somebody there through Front Row Insurance that helps you with the whole claim process.
Yeah, absolutely. You could reach out to me directly as well. We submit the claim to the adjuster, and it typically takes about 24 hours for them to respond, and then we start working. The process is a little bit different, whether it be a property damage or a liability claim, but we have a great insurer that works fantastically well, and they're very organized when it does come to claims handling and servicing.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Alyson, for joining us today. And listeners, again, I'll put the link on New Jersey Wedding Podcast so that you can go directly to frontrowinsurance.com and check out. They have a special tab about weddings, and then their tab about claims, and you can get your quote right away. And they make it very easy. And like Alyson said, their phone number's on there. Give her a call if you have any questions, and she'll walk you through it.
There you go. You don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Then you can concentrate on the fun stuff, like how you're going to get your hair and makeup done. So
Yeah,
the cake tasting.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you so much, Alyson.
Thank you. It was
Hi,
great.
Alyson. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
This podcast is brought to you by Andrea Pertel, owner of For This Joyous Occasion Officiating Services, serving all of New Jersey.
And this is Celia Milton from NJ Vows Now. We cover North Jersey and we help our couples vow to be different.